Greetings, Captain. This is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster, and this is a movie review. I finally went out and saw Everest, and I'm going to quickly review it. It is a movie about mountain climbers in 1996 climbing Mount Everest. This adventure club kind of thing decides to send a bunch of people to Mount Everest. There are other groups that are all camped out and are going to go to Mount Everest. And there's these three guys. One of them is the leader of the group, Harris or something. And there's Rob and another guy, Rob and some other ones. It's not important. I could look up the names, but I'm not gonna. Okay, there's the leader of the one group. There's an Australian guy. There's a Texas guy. And the Texas guy is not the leader. It's just one of the other guys. I think the Australian guy is the leader guy. So I may have that completely mixed up, but it was really hard to tell who was who and what was what. That's part of the problem with the movie. When you put everybody in like cold weather gear, and they're either wearing red or blue or yellow or whatever, and you put a mask on them, you kind of can't tell who they are anymore. Yeah, the movie was a little long, and I don't know if it's Oscar worthy necessarily. It's a disaster movie, more or less, but not in the vein of Roland Emmerich. It's more of a disaster movie in the vein of Emmerich's silly. It's more of a serious disaster movie, sort of like, the Poseidon thing, or the Poseidon Adventure, or maybe like Airport 77, which Airplane was based on, stuff like that. There was a subplot where the one guy has a wife who's pregnant, and she's going to give birth, and there was a guide giving advice to the other people. I guess he was the team leader of the group, supposedly, and going around to the other tents and giving advice to the other people. Apparently, it was loosely based on an Everest book that came out. But since the movie came out, the author of the book, who also did the TV show in 1997, denounced parts of it and said, no, some of this stuff didn't happen. He didn't denounce it completely. He said some of the stuff didn't happen. Like, there wasn't a pep talk from the leader of the expedition, aside from there just being like them meeting, earlier on. And there wasn't a scene where they doubled back and did other things, and there was like this dramatic, like Hollywoody sort of we're gonna all die on the mountain and whatever. And that wasn't as much. Like they dragged that on. They made it look like in the movie, the storm hits the mountain while they're going up to climb Everest, and some of them get trapped up there on the way down, sort of on the way up too. They made it sound like in the movie that they didn't know the storm was coming. But actually, they did know there was going to be a storm coming. They just couldn't avoid it. So that was one of the oddities in there. It's not a bad movie. I agree with the critics that generally said it was okay. It's better than average. It's not great. It is what it is. It's, if you like mountain climbing movies, I guess. I was rather, didn't care either way. I kept wondering if there was some way in the movie to somehow get them more oxygen on the mountain, and was thinking like, oh, couldn't they just eat the ice? But apparently they can't do that. Eating the snow would cool them down too much, and then they would die. So that wouldn't work. But there's, you'd think that maybe nowadays, it's 19 years later, maybe now when they send people up to Everest, they give them plenty of oxygen and put them in special suits so they don't get frostbite at all. Because you'd think they could totally stop frostbite nowadays, but in 1996, maybe not so much. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about it. But you figure those kind of people, hardy mountain climbers and hardy cavers and stuff like that, they're going to be the first people to go out into space to like mine asteroids and go to Mars and the moon, because they're going to go in where places other people can't go. So So I was just thinking about that too. But it had nothing to do with Mars or the moon. But to put a science fiction. No, it was not science fiction at all. It was a sort of an action thriller movie. Yeah, the since everyone has seen it by now, yeah, the movie has this expedition. There's three different groups going up this mountain, and the movie makes it sound like the guy from the lead expedition, who's the main character, that he somehow organizes them all, but he doesn't. That's inaccurate. The guy from the Russian expedition during that one was actually the one that kind of went back for some of them and rescued them off the hill. But the other guy, the Australian guy, kind of leaves some of that out, and the other guy left some of that out. So I guess some of them, the Tibetan guy, some of the Tibetans were killed. There was a famous lady, Japanese rock climber that went up there, and she died, and 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 this other guy died, and you keep hoping for the Hollywood ending where the other guy, they were doing this whole over the phone. I don't know how they had a satellite phone in 1996. It would have been pretty crappy reception, but they had one. It wasn't an error though, because they could have, but it would have been the size of a brick. It would have been pretty big, and they kind of made it look like it was pretty big. But yeah, so Everest, they come back down the mountain, and the guy they're trying to communicate with, he's dying, and then the other dude, who is the Texas guy, he eventually shows up. They think he's died, but he fell down down the hill, down the mountain, and he shows up later at the base camp, and he's all right, but he's messed up. His nose is all frostbitten off, and his hands are all messed up. They're frostbitten. And he actually makes it out, but the other guy that you think it's going to be a Hollywood ending, and the other guy's going to get out, but he doesn't. Yes, I'm giving away spoilers because it's been out for a while, so yeah. If you want spoilers, there it is. The person you least expect, and the person you kind of don't really like that much anyway, yeah, they sort of switch places, and yeah, and and the guy, because it's not a Hollywood story, it's Hollywooded up a little bit, but yeah, the one that's the least likable makes it, and the one that's the most likable doesn't make it. So it's like, wow, okay, that's why this movie is like 3 stars and not higher. It's because it's not the typical Hollywood movie. So in that sense, you can treat it like some of those movies, like There Will Be Blood, or something like that, or the Slumdog Millionaire, or something like that, where the movie actually has kind of a non-Hollywood ending. It doesn't end well, really. Although the guy that has the pregnant wife is the one that dies, and yeah, I'm giving it away, and everyone's seen it by now. It is late mid-October. Everybody's seen it. And you know the story anyway. If you're even remotely interested in the story or the book that it's based on, you can look that up. Go for it. Look up the Everest movie. And there's a book, and there was a TV movie in 1997 based on it. That's more closer to the book, actually. However, in the TV movie in 1997, they did get the Russian expedition guy wrong, because it was 1997, and the director is kind of like, But yeah, I looked all that up later. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with rock and ice climbing and Everest climbing. Yeah, not too much, no. Do not free climb mountains, nope. But there's gotta be, yeah, they should just build a big chairlift at the summit. Just pair a rope down the. Oh well, they didn't do that, but that would be the Roland Emmerich version. There'd be like this giant lodge on the summit. There'd be like a thump, and it'd be like this. Now we must get back down with our parasails. Dun, dun, dun. And if it was Michael Bay, they'd blow up half the mountain trying to get down the hill. It's like, okay, yeah, but yeah, apparently the oxygen levels up there are like being at like 2 miles above the sea level, so it's like being like, they said like a 747, but that's not. I think the 747 is higher than that when it's at cruising altitude. So that's not accurate. But oh well. Uh, that's higher than that. But might not be. But I think it is. Yeah, and you would basically asphyxiate and die, or you get frostbite before that. So yeah, it's not pleasant. So I wonder why someone couldn't like burrow into our ice shelters. I kept thinking like, there's any ice shelters? Some of them get down. It's not clear as to who everybody was part of the problem. Because everybody's got like a snowsuit on. It's like really tough to figure out what kind of who is what and what they're doing and from their voices. And once their voices get slurred by all the snow and ice, they filmed that really well. It was seamless between the CGI stuff, and there was CGI and green screens. But you really couldn't tell that much. Clearly, they didn't freeze the actors to death. Clearly, they built a base camp set on the ground, and then another camp set on the ground in the studio, and just made it cold. And then they put green screens up and photographed pieces of the mountain on the back of it. And you could kind of tell if you look closely, yeah, they're not really up that high. Because they didn't want to kill the actors, of course. But yeah, and Jake Gyllenhaal is in it. But yeah, let's see. And that lady from Jurassic Park and somebody else from a number of other movies. There's like different other action guys in there. But yeah, there was yeah, they even had, is Keira Knightley? I think she was in that too. Yeah, so they had some stars in it. But Oscar, probably not. Although they probably will make it one of the Oscar movies anyway, because at this point in October of 2015, we really don't have a dramatic Oscar movie contender yet. There's movies coming out. Maybe this new Bridge of Spies movie might be a contender, but really we don't really have anything. So there is Everest. Yeah. So yeah, Everest. Yeah, they filmed it at Pinewood Studios, which is where they filmed Star Wars and Harry Potter. And they also filmed it on the lower altitude parts of the mountain Tibet. So they were actually out in the snow when they did that part. But yeah, they didn't freeze the actors to death, of course. That would have been interesting. Performance art. Yes, we'll actually freeze the actors to death. Yeah, and they'll die for real. Yeah, it'll be like a snowbound snuff movie, kind of like that new backwoodsy movie that's coming out with like a DiCaprio or something in it, where he's like Left for Dead or whatever. Looks very dramatic and messed up. But yeah, what is the name of that? It's coming out anyway, some wilderness movie. But yeah, the Revenant. The Revenant. That's what it is. The Revenant. I remember that. I'll have to review that one too. Yeah. Because we have to go and review some of the dramas so we can say like, oh, I saw that. It's funny that last night when we did our horror reviews, they happened to pop into a horror movie that was by an Italian director who apparently was the first one to do a long scene thing, like a neat gore effect, flying off, dropping effect thing, which the movie Birdman clearly ripped off. But it looked really visually interesting in Birdman, Birdman. But yeah, I was thinking that when I saw Birdman, I've seen this before, something called Suspiria. Yeah, but how many people have seen? Clearly, the director of Birdman saw that other movie. Oh well, but yeah, so yeah, Everest. Yeah, the Red Letter Media already beat me to it, so they've already gone on at length about it and rambled on about other movies as well near the end. And yeah, it's good. Go rent it or something. I don't know if you want to own it. I guess you can own it if you want to when it's cheap. It'll be on the bargain bin before long. And yeah, you get to see Jake Gyllenhaal with ice crystals all over his face and stuff. And you get to see some other people with ice on them. I'm wondering, like, the base camps with the tents. I've been in tents when it was like in shelters and things when it was like almost freezing, and the tent was not that warm. So I don't get how the heroes were like able to even. You think they would have been bundled up in there, because in the tent they would have been like, freezing in here, but they didn't. really do that, because that part you could tell that was in the studio. Yeah, they weren't actually out in the cold, because they couldn't have been. They were like walking around with their regular clothes in the tent. It was like, unless they had massive heaters in there. I doubt they did. It was 1996 supposedly. Yeah, they would have been cold too. They would have all been bundled up and had little gloves on and stuff. Well, they did establish that they had allegedly like prepared themselves before they went. So I guess they could have like like been used to it. Like, a lot of people live in the snow and ice are just used to it, I suppose. Well, being from just from California, yeah, I'm not used to it. So there you go. The Everest.